Good afternoon. I can see that people now arriving. We're at 2:30. Lovely to see that James is joining us. I think that's probably James from your team.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it potentially is James from your team. But let's get started, Paul. So we got Jade here. So obviously Jade is going to make sure that you say the truth. And we got a lovely to see Jamie as well. Great to see people. Hi Jay. Yes, I will try and keep this running to time. I don't think I'm going to succeed very well, but we're going to give it our best shot. So lovely to see so many of you. I'm going to introduce you to Paul. I believe there are two people that know Paul very well here. So you and I first met, it must have been, was it around 2015, 2016?
Yeah, it would be about that, yeah.
Yeah. So it was at the British Accountancy Awards evening. I was a bit starstruck, if I'm honest. You just won New Firm of the Year. You had this massive profile as a real player after setting up One Accounts. And One Accounts was this new cloud-based firm that, you know, the word had got out that you just kind of started all again from a fresh sheet of paper. Little did I know that starting again was as a result of basically losing everything. You know, we're talking the house, losing everything when a merger with another firm had gone wrong. He'd been flown around the world by Sage as their expert in online accounting. And you looked at me and thought, nice smile, but can't help us. I'm not even sure about the nice smile bit, but, you know, your first impression was, nice chat, can't help me. But a number of years later, 2018, you got in touch as your firm had got to the 250k, which was the ceiling that you'd got to last time. And you thought, okay, I'm going to have to merge to move forward. And you couldn't see how to get it above 300k. You'd been there before and you thought, right, okay, I've got to learn. I've got to seek help. Fast forward 5 years from 2018, your practice is now, are you over 700 or nearly 700?
Nearly, yeah, we will be by the end of September.
Yeah. And you're also an AAT board member. So welcome, Paul. And for those of you that know Paul, and I know there's a few of you that do, you know that he will spare me no blushes and he'll take the mick out of me on this call. So Paul, do you want to give a little bit more of a pen portrait of your practice beyond what I've said?
Yeah, of course. So we're fully online. So when I say fully online, we are predominantly Xero, bit of Sage as well. And everything that we do is we're completely paperless, etc. We're a family business. So not only have I got my daughter who is listening on this, Jade, and no doubt Katie's sniggering in the background as well. So Jade runs the place, Katie markets everything. And we're now about to take on Josh, who is Jade's fiance. He's got a tax specialism, and Jenny and myself allegedly run the business, but that's becoming more difficult with Jade calling the shots. We've got 14 team members. We've got some great wins, particularly on the apprenticeship scheme, bringing people through on that. We've got a great team. Obviously, we started working with Heather and her team 5 years ago. I can't believe that was 5 years ago.
Yes, July 2018.
And we have gone from strength to strength. So we're very pleased with the way things are going. We've got new premises. We've got room to grow, and we're now seeking more work. And as Heather will probably tell everyone, despite getting nearly 5 new clients at good fees last week, that still isn't enough. And Jade's sitting there going, what are you talking about, Dad?
I think that's absolutely, it's, you know, I remember when you started working with us, you're in that, I've got staff, I've got to pay for staff, I can't afford stuff. You were working really long hours and you were saying to me, success is I'm back on the golf course. And you know, when you say you bought, you know, you've just bought your new offices, you've gone from well, I thought it was well kitted out, but it had little matter of every time it rained, the ceiling leaked and you regularly got flooded out, to something where you can now grow 4 times the size. You've got a co-working space upstairs and it's absolutely beautiful. So let's go back to that perceived ceiling, because I can see we've got a couple of people that are not members of the club that I know are flirting with it. So we've got Andrew and Sarah here, and I can see we've got Penny, club member. So let's go to that perceived ceiling. You've been there, you've now smashed through it. What do you think it was all about?
So when I first looked at the cloud offering, I thought that price was where it needed to be. So And we were doing a product at £67 a month that we now sell a cut down version of that at £299 a month. That's only sort of 5 years ago that we changed that, 5 or 6 years ago. So that's a huge change in pricing, and understanding that actually the market wasn't price driven. It's actually more service driven. And I think when COVID kicked in, that proved that when the whole team could just work from home and we could provide that service. So that was one side of it. The other thing is we were growing quick. As you know, Heather, I am useless with systems. I love to break them and I love to just not follow them at all. So we took Jade on. Yes, she's my daughter. She's not an accountant. She's her degree's in musical theatre, but she took Carbon on, discovered, used it inside out, asked basic questions because she's not an accountant, and that enabled us to grow through having proper processes in place. She also had the authority because whenever I broke the system, she told her mum and I got told off. So I had this sort of like two-pronged attack at me.
There's nothing like a family business, is there? And I think, you say you like breaking systems. I think it's also fair that you like buying systems. Someone can wave a new sexy bit of software in front of you and your credit card out and the monthly subscription is how much, just seems to happen like that. And I think, one of the things we first did was we did an audit and said, well, actually, what don't you need with systems? Are there some stuff that you can pare back on? And I think, was it about £1,000 a month we saved you or something like that?
Yeah, I saved more than I was making a profit out of my AMC fees in a month, just because of that. And I think that was a big eye opener because we thought we had to have industry standard, fully integrated, not cloud-based software that everyone uses as a household name, when actually some of the lesser known, although it's not lesser known anymore, more cost-effective software was actually spot on for our practice. And yeah, so we were very, very pleased with that change, and we did it very quickly as well.
And I've seen this before many times where you get somebody, and I'm not saying like yourself, but you get somebody with growth ambitions that wants to be seen as the practice, and they want to put in what you and I would call those big mid-tier type systems, the IRIS, the CCH, the whatever, which are good for those bigger firms, but as you say, they're very expensive. They don't do what you need to do, and you'll be amazed how many, when we have conversations with our members, move away from those and go back to the stuff that's far more suited. It might not be the big household name, but they go, I wish I'd done this much earlier. And I think you've touched on a really good point here, is you and I were quite similar in many ways. Suave, sophisticated, charming, all of that sort of stuff. But actually, we both love the hunt of a new client, don't we?
Absolutely.
We don't like saying no to new business. We both love working with our biggest clients. But you and I, we're visionaries, aren't we? Out of this visionary, so there's something called the visionary integrator model that comes out of the book Rocket Fuel, where your visionaries tend to be the people in a business that are great at winning big clients. They tend to be the strategic. Their idea about detail is woeful. They're almost a bull in a china shop trying to get stuff done. And they have the attention span of a gnat. That's new, not me, by the way. Jade may have different views on that. And then you've got your integrators that are tend to be the power behind the throne, that take the plan, that deliver it, that stop you and I from basically making too many mistakes. And I think that's the big thing for you that's probably shifted, hasn't it? You've moved out of feeling you have to do everything, and far more now suited to doing that visionary role. Am I about, of course I was right about you being suave, sophisticated and all that.
Absolutely.
Am I fair?
I think Jade would say I'm still doing too much. But yeah, no, indeed. So I do very much prefer to win the new client. And I think one thing that you do learn in growing your practice is that you do learn to say no. And interestingly, yesterday we had a young lad really wanted to support him. In the old days, I would have supported him a lot, giving him a load of free time, but I just can't afford to give him that time and pay my team what they deserve to earn. Yeah. So we'll pass him on to someone else that is starting up and he's able to give him the price point that he needs. And and also, I think that's the right thing to do.
And I think there's a really key point here in smashing through that 200, 300 ceiling is, up until that point, you are the lord, the master, the mistress of your fiefdom. You can't afford to have a really, really good person in there. You've often bought cheap or developed up. So nobody challenges you, do they? So we make our same mistakes, we repeat our same mistakes. And unless we learn from this, we carry on doing that. And I think one of the differences that accelerates it is when you get somebody in your practice that tells you you're being a bit of an idiot. And I think you bringing Jade in was that moment, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we can see mistakes that people, certainly locally to us, we've got a couple of young practitioners locally to us that are starting up in their journey, and you can tell they're competing on price. And it's just not sustainable. It just really isn't.
Because interestingly, you would have taken those cheaper clients on maybe even 3 years ago, but now you've been told off so many times by your daughters, you don't do it anymore, do you? And I get a text going, I had a really good lead and I had to say, no, look how far I've come. But I think it's this having people around us that will shine that mirror up. And I know that's what we do with club members, and you've got with your family too. But I think that's one of the big things that can accelerate. So beyond that, what in your view were some of those critical moves to smashing that 300k ceiling?
I think you've got to get the right people. You've got to understand your market. We were on our way to smashing through that ceiling before the pandemic. Pandemic did help us a lot, but that's because our business model was right for the pandemic. We have got rid of some old clients as well that unfortunately were zapping our time, which was it's really hard to do because you've got a good relationship with them as well. Putting in the right systems, definitely processing, and that then gives you the confidence to grow. But I think one of the big things that I've learned from my past mistakes is to try and recruit before you need them full time. It is surprising how quickly you get the work to cover their income, really, their salaries.
Yeah, and I think you and I see that time and time again, don't we, with the newer members into the club. And you and I, I had a screaming out, recruit now, and they're like, I can't afford it. And we're like, recruit now, because it takes that 3 months, 4 months, 5 months to do that. And interestingly, I want to go back to the fact where you said we became clear on who we were working with, and you always got a certain amount of referrals in, but in the last 6, 7, 8 months, you've really focused down on your message. And, you've always talked about being a family business and wanting to work with family businesses, but now you've really said it. What difference has that made to your marketing?
Oh yeah, the marketing is totally different. Interestingly, yesterday, although we didn't take the guy on, and we will do later on when he grows, but he came back and he was our first TikTok person to come on board. And he said, I really loved your family message. I really, really got that. Love the dogs on the website and what have you. So we've really pushed that family thing, and it's all the way through our company values as well. But we're getting, I think people kind of know that we're there to support, not necessarily the smaller, really small guys that can't completely afford us, but we're there to support growing businesses moving forward. And we're getting and the new building has helped a lot as well. That's done the opposite to what I actually thought we was going to do. So yeah, the perception now is that we're serious in the marketplace.
And I think there's a really good point here that when you're growing, you don't have lots of time to stick a lot of marketing out, because what you were doing was sticking a lot of noise out, which helped, but it only helped you get a lot of leads. It wasn't necessarily the right kind of leads. And I may have pointed it out a few times to you, only a few.
Did you?
But I think the final sledgehammer to the head that said, just talk about being a family business and all of this, because you are uniquely, and you put it all through your marketing. and everything now, and you can see the difference. So one of the things when you're going from growing to scaling, because that's what we're really talking about, growing to scaling, is how do you get your marketing so it just works? And as you said, the key here is not just saying you're about one thing, but driving it through the whole of your practice, from your culture, your values, to your marketing messages, to what you therefore deliver. So, we're talking about the challenge of scaling. And I just want to say that growing is about winning new work and keeping it. Scaling is about being able to carry that on, even when key people run out of time. And this is the big things. And you and I, well, you know it now with the work you do with your clients, is that there comes a point around about 300 to 500,000 in terms of accountancy firm turnover. If you don't have a leadership team, that growth stops again and you hit another plateau. So what did you do to build that strong leadership team around you? What were the steps you took and why was that needed?
I think one thing, and we've got an accountant who shares our offices as well. One thing that a lot of small practitioners forget about is admin. And there are huge admin tasks nowadays, particularly around the AML. Onboarding is over 100 points on all onboarding to get through. And often the guy that, the people that own the business are the ones that do it and do it wrong. So we've invested a lot in our admin team. We've got 3 in our admin team: practice manager, someone that specifically does onboarding, and then we've got Katie that phones clients up, etc. And Jade as well, who manages overall and helps do the strategy with me. So, effectively there's 3-4 people that are not accountants and not fee earners out of a team of 14. And I think that, to me, that is probably a real key area. And I speak to other practitioners and they go, "Oh, blimey, you spend a lot of money on admin," but actually it allows the other team members to do the work they need to do. And I think that's, to me, on reflection, I think that's probably the biggest area where other firms do not invest.
And interesting, you and I, you went through our certified growth advisor program. And one of the concepts we talked about was about that queen bee activity. It's what is the fundamental thing you have to do so your business just works, if you just really focus on that. And I think this is where the light bulb went on for you, that said our fee earners need to be helping clients with their business. Anything else needs to be done by somebody else and can be done at a much cheaper price point level. So I think there was that realization, wasn't there, that this isn't just trying to get multi-skilled people that do everything. It's about actually get people what they're good at, doing what they're good at. But you'd also become a bottleneck, hadn't you? You basically had Jade on one side going, "Stop it, Dad. That's not for you. Don't touch it. You'll break it." But you become a bottleneck. And you and I now see it in these businesses that they work with, that you get the business owner at the center, and all spokes lead to the business owner, whether it's clients, suppliers. And actually, if you're going to scale, you have to break that model. You have to break that structure, whether you've put it in purposely or not purposely. And one of the big things I know you did was put that leadership team in to stop that bottleneck. Now, I've mentioned a little bit about you and this growth service. So do you want to talk to me more about how it came about and what you're doing with it?
Yeah, so I get really passionate about helping businesses grow, which is what I really like. My team will tell you that they really don't want me anywhere near producing a set of accounts and what have you, because I don't do it to their complete standard. But obviously my product's always right.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. But I do enjoy helping businesses grow. So to understand the tools of how a person works and then how a business works has been really important. And I'm not just saying this because we're on your call, but the Certified Growth Advisor program that I attended, which was I think the first one, gave me those tools, and we've signed up 8 clients so far on this program. They typically spend between £900 and £1,500 a month with us, and we help them grow. on top of their normal fees. So it's a great program. We are very structured in terms of the approach, but as you know full well, when you start coaching these people, accounts is a very small part. Company values is a huge part. I think in all cases we have helped recruit someone to manage their businesses. I think in all cases we've helped recruit people. So you're then not just an accountant, are you? You are giving that entire service, and it's been successful. And I'm not just saying that in every single one we've had our hands on.
And I think that goes back to that whole, who are you there for? What are you there to do? And really putting it through. And for you, it's about that family-owned businesses that are growing. And so this is just a natural extension. But you put the numbers on the table, and if somebody is just, say, taking a basic compliance from you, they're now spending 300, 400 quid a month. They then add on bookkeeping, they're now spending about 800, 900 quid a month. You then add on your growth service, and then suddenly in total, these people are spending 2 to 3 grand with you a month. So that one single client, that if it was just compliance only, 4 grand, is now a 30 to 40 grand a year client. And this is the opportunity that I think most people are sitting on and not realizing. But the problem is we often, and this is me on my hobby horse, and I think you'll agree with it, we often go, but I'm an accountant, I'm brilliant at helping people grow their business. So what do you now look back on and realize are the skills you picked up in the last 2-3 years that is really helping you now with your clients that you didn't have, even though you thought you had?
I think we're all very quick to shove down our experience down people's throat very quickly, rather than draw it out of people and give them the ideas. So that's a big, anyone that's been through that program will learn that actually shutting up is probably the best effective thing to do, which, as you know, is quite difficult for me to do that. And it's quite interesting when we've got other team members come in and the part of that where they start to put words in people's mouths, and actually that doesn't work either. But I think that the whole program for us has it's broadened our knowledge and our approach. We know how to run businesses. I mean, ours is a business. It's been successful over the last 10 years. So we often get people in going, we want to grow like you have. But it does take some pain, and people have got to be really focused on it. So it's just not, some people aren't geared for wanting to put that hard graft in and learning new things.
And I think one of the things, knowing you and knowing now what you're doing with those businesses, is you've learned far more about what I would call transitional points.
Absolutely.
So what is stopping you from scaling is often a transitional point. And as you and I know, it's running out of time, it's running out of capacity, it's running out of cash. And as an accountant, we're always very good at recognizing the running out of cash. It's the other bit that we didn't have those skills. And those are so much linked to mindset, behaviors. And that's, I think, the skill set that you brought in. Previously we'd be spreadsheet millionaires and go, well, you just got to put an extra 10% profit, 20% on your top line, you hit your goals. And that's the sort of thing that you often hear accountants saying. And now you've got the skills to really dig underneath that in a way you didn't. And I've often said, look, if people are serious about delivering this more coaching consultancy type service, whatever it is, you can't just go in there as an accountant with a script from a software provider. You've got to invest in your soft skills, your coaching skills, your advising skills, which are very different to turning up and going, well, here's the red line on the graph. If we just do this, let's brainstorm some ideas, as talking about that. So that almost neatly leads me on to, what are some of the points along the way where your growth has stumbled or plateaued, and why?
I think a big one is always cash. It's when you grow, you need to make sure you've got the right sort of money behind you. I think setting your stall out early. I see people, we don't use timesheets in our business, something I've decided not to do in the last 10 years. Worked very well. So we don't have work in progress lockup. We don't have debtors. We don't have any debtors whatsoever. all of our money is collected by Go Cardless. All of our fees are billed up front and paid up front before we do the work. That is a decision I made after my last business, where, you know, the lockup was, you know, 5 to 7 months. We cannot afford to do that. So I think people need to really, you know, the fact that everyone else gets 30 days doesn't matter. You know, do what is right for you. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah.
That sorts cash out. And then it's making decision to employ at the right time, and get the right software in and review software as well. And also one thing that hit us just after the pandemic, we had a particular client that we really nursed through the pandemic, really large client, big fee earner for us, you know, 8 to 10 grand a month, huge fee earner, required most of my time, most of my other people's time. And they unfortunately didn't survive, and we suddenly had a great big hole in our business. So my old business, I said I'd never go over someone that did more than 5% of my turnover. I broke that rule here, and that again caused us a huge problem. Jade had a target and hit it very quickly, and we replaced that very quickly. So that hole has been done within 6 months.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to come in here because I think you're being a bit hard on yourself. One of the things I've seen on your journey is far more discipline. I don't think the Paul I first met would have had a plan in place beyond a spreadsheet of numbers. And you know, you would have gone out and winged it and something would have sorted it and we'll be fine, don't worry about it type stuff. Whereas the Paul that has a business that's nearly over 700k has a plan with responsibilities, with contingencies, and that drives what he and the rest of the team does. And I think that's a big difference. And I see that in the club all the time. It's not just, I'm going, do you have a growth plan? Well, I've got it up in my head. No, that's not a growth plan. That's going to lead you into problems. And now the next stage is, do your team know about your plan? No. Right, let's move that forward. But I think you and I identified that that client was a risk 2 years before it actually went. And you'd been building up contingencies around it so that when it went, you had stuff to fast fill it quickly. So I think the first thing to recognize here is it's about having that plan and making sure that that plan is there and you're working to it. And I think that made a difference. But I know
I tell you, I'm standing here grinning because Jade's obviously listening to this, and I always throw this back in her face, this particular client, and she's got she's like, "Shut up, it's gone."
It's gone.
I've hit my targets. Don't talk anymore.
Yeah, but I think with, like you, with all business owners, you're your own worst enemy, and you get distracted, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and you know, I think 6 months of distraction about this new building. It's beautiful, but it was 6 months. It consumed you. Yes,
I mean, it's amazing how much time it takes, even just to say, hang that door that way. And when you've got, you know, 30 odd doors, it's a lot of hanging that you've got to think about.
And you had nice little LED lights to play with. And
we had all the
panels working. But also, you know, one of the benefits of being a family business is you are a family business. But I know that when you've had ill health in the family, that's pulled you out of the business and your business has suffered as a result. So, you know, that these are some things I know I've seen that with you, but also I think you learned fairly early on, if I wasn't kicking your backside, you went back to old behaviors.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, having the family business, you know, to take the building as well, having those values, bringing those through the team, you know, they helped us, you know, in their own time at weekends to get into that new building. So, you know, our values are going through our team as well, which is fantastic. And when there are issues regarding health, you know, when you've got 14 people, including ourselves, you know, and there is ill health amongst, you know, the team and their family members, everyone supports each other. And I think that is just so key, particularly in our business. There's a lot of support amongst the team.
But you've had to grow that. And I think
absolutely.
Over 5 years, it's I don't think the one accounts of 3 years ago would have had their team volunteering on a Saturday to put up furniture in a new building on their own time?
Maybe not, but they definitely worked as a team. So
Yeah,
they
really.
were a good, strong unit.
And they pulled together, and I think you've built something there. And the interesting thing is, I think when you and I started working together, I would have said, what are the values of your business? What's the culture? And you would have said, it doesn't matter. It's just about bringing clients in and working. And you said yourself that in terms of growth, the big thing with your clients is about these values and culture. And for those of you that, just for avoidance of doubt, that is about the norms of how we work. And that's one of the big things that I think I've seen in your business change, is you realizing that your personality couldn't drive everything. And if you want to scale, you have to bring in those values and culture. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my journey with Sage at the early part, you know, it was all about ego, wasn't it? They flew me around the world first class, spoke on, you know, no one could touch me, could they? But actually,
no, I couldn't help you.
No, but that wasn't really paying the bills, was it? So
No.
I think that you kind of learn, you know, and yeah, okay, you know, we joke about sort of, you know, Jade and Katie, but they do bring me down to earth now and again.
Jade's just done that, by the way, on the text to you.
Yeah, thought leader, there you go. Yeah, she took the mickey out of that when I had to do all those. But I think that you do realise that it's not all about you in the end. You know, and you do see, obviously, on LinkedIn and what have you, there's a lot of people out there at the moment that are, you know, being really sort of pandering to the big software houses, you know, don't put as much effort in as they want. That probably distracted me for a couple of years, to be fair.
Yeah, and that's something we often see with members. We're like, there's no point being the poster boy, poster girl for a piece of software.
No, there's not.
Particularly if they want you to turn up for free in your own time and advertise their stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, it's got to be an equal relationship. And far too often, when you do become almost the pet of these software houses, you know, you find yourself being on case studies and webinars and then going to an event, and you're paying to be there with your time and also your travel costs. And you've got to have more respect for yourself with these things. And as you say, you've got to move away from the ego of, they're asking me. So, final question. What do you see as your biggest challenge going forward?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I think that's changing regularly. Because we're now putting in place clients that are paying a lot more money than they were before because of the service we're offering. So our turnover growth is going up a lot quicker than I was expecting. I don't know what happened between 500 and 700. As though I blinked an eye and it happened. And I know it sounds quite blasé, but it really was like that. And I think you've just got to take stock, which is, you know, where, you know, it's helpful to attend your meetings in the mornings, and feed off other people, and obviously be into check. And you lose that as you do scale. You do lose that focus. I mean, you know full well, I spent a weekend and I ditched 20 grand a year's worth of software that I'm paying for, and £20,000, a lot of money, that I was paying for needless software. So I think I can't let the business run away with itself like it used to. Still keep it in check, still plan. We've got forecasts for the next year or two. Continually speak to, you know, keep Jade involved and Katie involved and the rest of the team involved in our plans moving forward. Long term, you know, I'm getting on a bit now. So
never. You're still in your early 40s, aren't you?
Yeah. I wish. Yeah.
You had your kids very young.
Having kids young, yeah. But you know, I just see that, you know, obviously the girls will take the business forward. I would say, let me do what I want to do, play golf and help businesses grow, really, and that's the bit I love. So I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about it. Your challenge is, I think, it's finding the bookkeepers, the accountants that get the way that you do things. That it's not about a set of accounts at the end of the day. It's about changing minds and helping businesses, and it's that focus. And I know that your team has done you know, is on a journey and is getting there and is doing really well with that. But it's about bringing in people that will get that ethos and what it's about, rather than it's, oh, we just got to do a VAT return and understand what they're doing. And I think, as you say, you and I had a conversation, who's going to deliver your growth service, because you're getting maxed out, Jade's trained and getting maxed out, who's next? And so it is, as you say, it's not necessarily about finding accountants, it's finding people that get the ethos, that want to work your way. So
yeah, and I think that the term accountant is quite interesting, because one of our values is teamwork makes the dream work. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but it is cheesy, I suppose. But it is the flow of work. You know, if the flow of work is right by the time that the person at the end, which is normally the most qualified accountants, if what they get is a product that's really good so that they can use their expertise on it rather than just do a set of compliance stuff, then that's the way it's got to work. And it's that flow that's got to be right. And it starts from onboarding.
Yeah. And I definitely have seen that. It's, you know, I look at what you've done. Probably 5 years ago, you had a bookkeeping team, you had an accounts team, and you had yourself, whatever. And now, as you say, you're really trying to, everybody realizes that they're all part of delivering a great way, deliver awesome, another one of your team values.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out here, with their team values, you won't find your team values in a book of values. They are really personal. You know, you won't find teamwork makes the dream work. You won't find deliver awesome. I can't remember what your family related value is. But it is about personalizing it and making it your business. So I love working with you, Paul. You know that. There are times when I'm not sure whether I do, but you know. So if you were to summarize the last 5 years, what would be the key message that you want to leave with people?
Summary of the last 5 years: get a support network, because, you know, we've had a strange 5 years. Having a support network, certainly through the Accountants Growth Club, in our meetings with other accountants, had got us through that and has helped moving us along. That's really, I think that's important, because it's a very lonely place. Do what you want to do that's best for your business, and not because it's the norm. You know, like doing go cardless for direct debit, etc. And without doubt, put a decent process in place. Without doubt.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Paul. Right. If people want to get in touch with Paul, it's Paul. I'll just type it into the chat box. Paul at oneaccounts.co.uk. There you are. If people want to get in touch with Paul, that's great. Paul at oneaccounts.co.uk. And so thank you very much, Paul. This recording will be out on our YouTube shortly. So thank you very much. And I will see you in about 8 minutes time, I believe, for the AGC.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Thanks very much. Bye.